If you find yourself wondering about the objective nature of reality, the good news is you're not entirely alone. The bad news is you're almost entirely alone. Amid the voices of thousands of competing views are mobs, masses of numbers of people who seem not to be looking at all for anything. And yet they are often a part of the competing voices. What do I mean by that? For example, take the college that I went to, Hyles-Anderson College here, and I want to show different things, different voices that are coming out into play on this video, into the mainstream and into society. And Hyles-Anderson College, where I went to school, most of the people there were not looking themselves for the truth. Just a fact. They either believed they already just had all there was to know, or they were simply following some sort of a program, some sort of something inside of them that was telling them every last thing that they were supposed to do according to whatever had put them in it. For example, let me say it like this, and maybe I'm sounding a little confusing, because it seems to me that most people, had they been born a headhunter, they would probably die a headhunter because they've never asked a question before. They never asked, why am I doing this? Why am I here? What is the objective truth? Should we really hunt heads? Well, it makes no difference whether those people are in the jungles hunting heads or whether they end up at Hyles-Anderson College, for example, because most of the people there are not asking themselves, what is the objective nature of reality? Have I found the truth? Have I found what is right for myself? Have I really looked and done all there is that I can do? And have I just asked why? In fact, I would say virtually none of the people that I went to school with ever asked any of those questions, in my opinion. Because, how do I know? Because, well, virtually none of them were eager to talk about it. You know, how often do you go to church and no one really wants to talk about any of the things that are taught in church? You know, you go and you sit there waiting for the church to start, and what are people generally talking about? Well, the old people are almost always talking about their last pill, you know, their last surgery, their last health problem. The younger guys are virtually always talking about hunting or sports. The old ladies are almost always talking, and I'm not being facetious or something, but they're just usually talking about some sort of a relationship issue. I don't mean they're gossiping necessarily, but I mean they're just, you know, talking about day-to-day people relationship issues like ladies are known to do, you know, pretty normal. But how many of them are sitting down talking the Bible with each other? I could probably count on one finger maybe all the times that I've seen that over the years and all the churches I've been to. We go and we want to hear somebody say it, but it's not in our hearts to constantly be thinking about it. It's not in our hearts to constantly be talking about it. And it makes me marvel that it's so not present in our minds, so not present in our hearts that we're not really searching for truth or taking every minute that we can and doing all that is possible to try to find and digest the truth. How is that possible? Is it because we're all part of a matrix construct? Is it that we really are just, there's only a few of us that are built in this matrix to ask questions and everyone else is just doing exactly what the program tells them to do? I mean, I have to say, it's uncanny since I've learned gematria just how structured the entire universe is. You should see on your screen now how Buckingham Palace, while I was watching the president yesterday get out of the helicopter. I say yesterday, it's actually after midnight, so it should be 2 days ago now, technically speaking. But I was waiting for President Trump at Buckingham Palace to get out of his helicopter. It had sat there for some time. And I knew he was coming because I was watching the news, and I was watching the helicopter land and all that. So I punched in a few numbers, just the basic things that they said on the screen, Buckingham Palace and, President Trump and that sort of thing. And it was pretty obvious from the English ordinal value that President Trump wasn't going to get out of that daggone helicopter until 12:17 because because Buckingham Palace is 127, and right on cue he comes right down that ladder at 12:17. You see. So, and everything about that event was by these numbers. So the matrix is so structured that you can't even get out of it. The president of the United States cannot get out of an aircraft until it matches the numbers. Doesn't that feel like we're in some sort of a computer program? Like the nature of reality is just messed up that it's weird? Now, for many of my years of life, I was very much into a viewpoint very similar to this Hyles-Anderson College fundamentalist view, where you had very, very, very strong, rigid points that you believed. However, unlike anyone that I met at Hyles-Anderson College, had anybody talk to me about anything, I would listen to what they had to say, and I would consider it, ponder it in my heart, and go back to it later, even if I didn't understand it at the time. So when we would go to Chicago, this school is close to Chicago. It's up near the northwest corner of Indiana. And when we would go out of there and go into Chicago for our ministries, oftentimes people would want to argue, debate, all that kind of stuff that people do. And I would give them my view, but when they would say something, I did something that none of them did, that no one at my college did. I listened to what they had to say. And I pondered it. And if there was any truth in it, or if I could find truth in it, I would change my own viewpoint regardless of what I've been told. Now, how many people do you know actually do that? I would say virtually none. When I first started getting online, I started arguing with a lot of people online and what I was doing was I was sharpening my skills. I was wanting to learn. I wanted to know what the world thought about things, and would they listen to the way that I present what I have to say. And even though what I've discovered is that most people are ridiculous in the way that they present everything that they present, whether it's atheists or Christians, whether it's Muslims or just people that aren't sure about things, is that they generally present everything in a way that they're angry if you don't agree with them. And I've been like that at time or two, but not quite in the same way, because I would listen to what they had to say and ponder it. And as a general rule of thumb, I discovered very quickly that if you disagree with people, the angrier they get, and the more quiet you should get, and they'll eventually just get angry and leave the room. You don't have to be angry at them. Their own anger will drive them mad. And while sharpening my skills, I would continually adapt and learn things, tear down old things that I knew and understood. And even some of the craziest people began to adapt and change certain aspects of my views, not because the truth that they might be presenting, even if it was just a nugget of truth in a whole river of nonsense, that one nugget of truth I would take and I would latch onto it, and I would hold that and add that to my understanding. You see, there is one thing they taught at Hyles-Anderson College that was right. Every single person knows something that I don't know, therefore every single person is my teacher. However, they don't believe that, but they did teach it. I don't know a person there that believed it, though. For example, one of these fellow students that I went to school with recently was talking about the King James Bible. And according to this school, the King James Bible is the only Bible in the English language. And I was simply telling them that it is a Masonic coded Bible, which cannot be disputed if you are honest. And if you want to go back and see some of my other videos, what the Bible really says and how it was meant to be understood, go back and watch that video. I talk all about it. Well, he became quite angry. He didn't remember that the school said that everybody knows something that I don't know. He erased everything that I said. Everybody is my teacher. Well, not for him. No, he already knows all there is to know about this subject, apparently. And so if you say anything that doesn't automatically tote the line, what's the point in having a conversation with anything or about anything if the only thing that's ever supposed to happen is one person is supposed to teach and the other person is only supposed to support, listen, and be loyal? And I have to tell you, that's what I really didn't like about Hyles-Anderson College. From day one, you were told you have to be loyal. They used to say even a dog can be loyal. Loyalty. Make sure you're loyal. Sign of a cult right there. Loyalty. But there's a lot of views out there that are strange. Very, very strange views. And some of them, I don't know if they're right, frankly. I mean, look, take this mud fossil guy for example. I can't disprove anything that he says. Doesn't mean he's right, but I can't not disprove what he says. According to the mud fossil guy, there is a giant dragon. I'm going to try to scroll down because it's actually, he has a picture on one of his videos way down here. But on many of his videos, he actually talks about how northern Morocco is a giant 900-mile-long dragon from the times before the I don't know, before the flood, I guess. And a lot of things he says seem to conflict greatly with my understanding of history. But I can't disprove, because a lot of the things he shows, that the world is a bunch of body parts of animals, giant animals that used to exist, and the way he shows it and presents it, the fact that he gets DNA out of a whole lot of these rocks is amazing. I can't find the one about Morocco, but if you look through, you'll see it. There's a lot of these rocks definitely show structure as if they were muscles. This crystal skull seems to have been an actual skull at one time that was replaced by minerals of, I don't know, what is that, quartz or mica? I don't know what that stuff is, but whatever that mineral is, Many of the giants were clearly frozen like this, like, where was that one I just saw when I passed it? Mud fossils are these giants. This is a huge thing. Some people say, well, that's a statue, but you go in and you watch this video, you will not believe that this is a statue. It shows the muscles of this thing coming out. You see blood coming out of rocks. He shows giants with, I forgot the other guy's name. He shows giants in Africa, in Egypt, that were plastered by the ancient Egyptians with plaster all around them so that they look like they're a statue. But then when they fall down and break in half, and they're about, I don't know, maybe 20 feet tall or something like that, you can see their ribs, you can see their lungs, you can see their organs inside their body. Clearly, these were real people. You can't deny that. Now, is the 900-mile-long dragon an actual dragon? I don't know. It looks like one. You go back and look at it, and you will, I promise you, if you have any sense, you'll question. Because look how many things there are, like these tracks that are in solid stone. You find things like this all over the world, So how did that get there? It wasn't just soft mud, and or it may have been before the flood or right after the flood or something, but this is not modern day tracks. These things are fossilized in very hard rock. And you find these kinds of things all over the world. Not to mention, like Answers in Genesis points out, Answers in Genesis has recently built Noah's Ark over in northern Kentucky. So I want to go see it. Been to the Creation Museum several times. But, they talk a lot about how human footprints and dinosaur footprints are found together. How the dinosaurs could easily have fit onto the space provided in Noah's Ark and so on. And they answered a lot of my questions when I was a teenager. They really did. I read a lot of their books, and wonderful, wonderful resource to show that the world can't possibly be billions and billions of years old, at least not as it is presented by evolutionists. The evolutionary theory, you have to be really dumb to believe that. I mean, it's like base level stupid. It's like you have to be programmed by the Matrix on purpose to think that the world is billions of years old and that spontaneous generation can even happen in any way, shape, or form, despite the fact it being proven wrong back in the 1800s, Life does not just spring to life all by itself and find a girlfriend and know how to eat and have all the complicated DNA to create all the parts inside of a cell. Impossible. Millions and millions of functioning pieces don't just all animate at the same time in the right place. Because there's no such thing as a simple cell. They use the word, but it doesn't exist in reality. Cells are very complicated. So they've shown so many ways that the evolutionary theory is not right, and that there definitely had to have been a worldwide flood. That evidence is everywhere because there are huge fossils everywhere around the world. Fossil boneyards of dinosaurs all buried together. Fossil graveyards, massive numbers of layers. But then the way this guy presents the layers is that some of them are pieces of giant animals. Now, it'd be easy to disprove whether the ones he's talking about are pieces of gigantic animals, because if they are, they shouldn't have smaller fossils scattered throughout them. That would be proof that that was destroyed in the worldwide flood, and so if it had fossils in it, then his theory can't be right. But I haven't been able to go out and prove any of the things he says. I think I think this is a picture right here. If you go to Google Earth and you look in northern Morocco, this big old giant dragon thing, it looks like, it really does. And you'll have to watch his video. Don't take my word for it. Go watch it. But a lot of the stones he pulls out, he can show you the blood in them. He's had them DNA tested. There's a lot of fossils where you can tell this was a living creature at one time. Okay, I would not expect to find small fossils of shells inside of it, or a bone of some other kind of creature that's not this thing inside of it. I wouldn't expect that. So there's a lot of ideas that don't fit into the paradigms I understand. So I hold on to this stuff. And I ponder it. And maybe someday more information will come along that'll make it all make sense. However, it doesn't jive very well with Answers in Genesis. He does say that there was a worldwide flood, but it doesn't work very well with Answers in Genesis. It doesn't work well with the Bible timelines too well. I mean, it could, possibly. But that means we had 900-mile-long creatures on the earth just before the flood. And how did that work? How does a 900-mile-long creature stand up? I don't know. That doesn't make sense. It means his face is hundreds of miles into space. How's he going to breathe? I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me. So, but I can't disprove anything he says either. Wish I could, Go watch some of his videos, see if you can disprove them. I don't know how you can. He provides a whole lot of pretty good evidence for a lot of his theories. Some of them you're gonna be like, yeah, I'm not sure about that one. But it's like that with anybody on anything. You're not going to believe every last thing they say. Now, if you want to hear a very interesting theory, I literally just heard this the other day. Okay. And if this guy happens to listen to my video, I'm not making fun of you or anything like that, so please don't think that. But it is very, very interesting, and personally, I can't really buy into it yet. I don't think it's right, but it sure makes a lot of sense when you compare it with gematria. So let me give you a rundown of this theory. This theory says that basically the Matrix, like the movie The Matrix, is pretty much a reality. And this person was very intent on reaching out to me and wanting me to know that I am one of the players in a game and that this entire reality is a game. And that you are born into this system knowingly ahead of time because we designed this game, we players designed this game, and apparently I'm one of them, to play this game, and when we're in it, our character, which is this reality, won't know anything about it. And so that our source player, as they call it, the real person, like not Super Mario on Nintendo, but the guy controlling Super Mario, he would be the source player for a good analogy. Well, I'm one of the source players, apparently, and according to him, and he knows this because this girl here in this video told him that if you talk to your pendulum and you ask it questions and it swings left or right or straight, forward or backward, it'll tell you yes or no and answer your questions, and those are signals from your source player. Now, the interesting thing about this is when I look around, and some of what this guy says makes a whole lot of sense. What I just said part doesn't. But I'll tell you this: most of the world are like the Matrix says in the movie. They're Agent Smiths. They are sentient creations of the Matrix. That's what they said in the movie Agent Smith was. He was a sentient creation of the Matrix. Had no actual body of his own, so therefore he could go in and out of any body, So therefore any person you see inside the Matrix could be an agent, you see. Well, all I can say when I look around the world is it does very much appear that most of the world is being run much like that. That virtually everyone is an agent. They're running by the Matrix code. They are part of this fake reality. I mean, the president can't even get out of a helicopter until 1217 because that's what the numbers say. So what is controlling him? I mean, he's the president, for heaven's sakes. Why does that matter at all to him? But apparently it matters a great deal because they do things like that every single day. Every meeting is controlled by their numbers. All these false flag attacks are controlled by dates and eclipses and full moons and solar eclipses, lunar eclipses, and it's a mathematical perfection that is uncanny, that very much resembles a matrix computer program. And you have to sit back and scratch your head and say, how is this possible? Now, does that mean that I actually am a source player playing in a video game? No, there's other possible interpretations, I think. But, I have to say that there's definitely something to the idea that most people are completely controlled. This is why concerts suck for me. Because I don't want to go to a concert and see people just being told when to clap on command, when to respond. And it's like they all know because they've all been living in the Matrix so long that they know the words to every one of the songs. I don't know the words to any of the songs because I don't care what they say when they're on the radio. So my mind doesn't tap along. I don't listen to it. My mind completely zones out those ridiculous matrix of this world, and I am a living, thinking individual that does things by my own will. But virtually nobody does. That's why thousands and thousands of people can go to a concert and they all know the words to the song. I don't know that they've ever had an original thought in their life that wasn't put there by the Matrix. Tens of thousands of people will go to a sports game and they all know all the players. They know um, they know all the teams. They know all the players. They know who the good ones are. They know all the rules of the game, and they are emotionally invested into the game, cheering, standing with thousands of other people at the same time, always knowing what to say around other people so they don't offend anybody, so they don't get things, so they don't get, and that's in any situation, not just sports, but you have to know how not to offend people in anywhere you go. You don't want to say the wrong things to the wrong people, and people like me, we don't do that. We don't think that way. We don't live like that. We say the truth not for the purpose of offending, but we say reality because that's what's come to our mind, and we're not beheld by the rules of the Matrix. But I don't find anybody else like me out there. Honestly, it's like I don't know anybody in church like that. I didn't know a single person in college like that. I've heard of one or two other people tell me they're like that, but then I observe them and they do not appear to be that way. Now I have to say this really gets to you after a while because, and I started to break down because I did understand it uh, a little all too well, but I understood that the world was so controlled, and I was just losing my mind because I couldn't live in this world. So I had 35 jobs, because I actually expect employers to treat me like a human being. Oh, well, you can't have that. I even expect customers to treat me like a human being. Wow. Boy, that's a profound thought, isn't it? I'll tell you this is one way to get over the matrix a little bit. Now, according to this lady here on your screen, you're supposed to raise your vibration level to get out of the matrix. And one of the first rules that she says you have to do is you got to quit eating meat. Well, good luck with that. I'm not going to get to that. But one of the ways you can get out of the matrix for sure, or at least make some progress, is you can whenever you see somebody being attacked by this matrix system, you can rush to their defense. You can not worry about what other people say. You ever see somebody being mean to the cashier at the store, and everybody just stands in line and just watches somebody berate the cashier? Well, that cashier's stuck. They can't do anything. They're on the job. They're not allowed to say anything because they'll lose their job. But you know what? Their boss can't say a frickin' thing to you, but you know that, and you just stand there and let it happen. I don't. I don't. I will call you out in front of the whole store and everybody loudly if I have to. And I'll make sure everybody in the store hears it because I don't care. And that's what not living in the matrix is like. You get to be a thinking, functional creature that is driven from within, that trusts your own intuition as if you're connected to something. And that's why the lady on the last page, I tell you, she resonates in some weird way with that, but I don't believe that I'm just that most of the world are soulless creatures. I think they do have a choice, and that they could be like me if they want to. And I'm not saying I'm there yet. I'm not. Okay, I'm not saying I'm the Messiah or anything crazy like that, or I've achieved perfection, or or sinlessly perfect, or whatever language you want to use. I don't believe any of that, okay? But I'm just saying, if you want to be driven from within instead of by the matrix, I feel like that's possible for anybody. I don't want to lose hope that that's possible, because even though I never see it happen, never, I'd never see it happen. Not sometimes, I never see it happen. We live in a world where virtually everyone thinks that sports are real. And yet we prove every day that they're fake. Fake as the WWE. That all these mass shootings and these ritualistic killings that they're real, and they're clearly not real, a lot of them. Or they may actually kill people, but they're clearly planned in advance. That the stories don't match up with what the media is telling you time and time again, day after day after day. Well, here's another guy that says a lot of interesting things, and I learned about the septenary cipher from him. Okay, Marty Leeds. And definitely all these people, I encourage you to go and watch all their videos. I'm not warning anybody not to watch them, and I'm also, I mean, I like all of them, okay? I mean, I like all of them because they all have points that are real, that are authentic, nuggets of truth, and some of them have a lot of truth, okay? And this guy would be one of them. He's taught me a lot, made a lot of notes from his videos. If you're an honest person, you will too. He has a lot of truth to present, but he thinks the world's flat and defends it vehemently. Well, I can tell you this. What NASA tells us is not true in a lot of ways. I'm sorry, but it's just not very likely that the diameter of the moon, 2,160 miles, that could be true, because that is the number of angles in a cube. That sounds very Kabbalah to me. And that if you multiply that number by 4, or 4 cubes, that's the diameter of the sun, or that half a cube, 1,080, the radius of the moon, and there's supposed to be 108 moon widths from the Earth to the moon. I don't believe that can be just a big coincidence. I feel like somebody is lying to me. So maybe, maybe there are some coincidences out there, but there's not coincidences to that big. I mean, somebody's lying. But does that mean we never went to the moon? I don't know. It definitely doesn't mean that the world's flat, though. Because when they try to tell me that the world's flat, and the proof that they give, it's the weakest evidence I've ever seen for anybody, for any theory. It just does not add up, They say, well, the sun's just getting farther and farther and farther away and diminishing. No, it's not. Like, obviously it's not. It's not getting smaller. It's the same size when it goes over the horizon as it was in the sky. It doesn't. If it's getting farther away, it gets smaller. I mean, just that right there. I mean, that's really that just kind of blew the whole argument, And honestly, their evidence is just weak. But at the same time, NASA's lying. So what's right? So if you're having trouble trying to discern what's the objective truth, what do I mean by objective truth? I mean something that is right, regardless of what anybody thinks, okay? It just is because it is, Like the sky is blue, and it really doesn't matter if 50 people say it's red. I mean, it just, the fact is, it's blue. It doesn't matter if 100 people say it is blue. It's blue because it's blue. It's not blue because you said so. It's just an objective fact. The sky is blue, If you throw a rock off a mountain, it's going to go down, Whether you call it gravity or whatever you want to call it, it is going to go down. That's an objective fact, So, look, here's a perfect example of NASA lying to us. Look right here. The Challenger astronauts, you can watch this video right here. And you can see every single one of these people are still alive. They show side by sides and show that these are the people. They even do voice comparisons. They're definitely. I don't think it's that one. Oh, let's see. Well, I did Challenger. It's not this one. Oh, they're censoring it. It may take me a while to find it. Look at that. Look what I put in. I put in Challenger astronauts still alive, and they're giving me all the stuff that. Gosh, these people censored the truth. See, but there is a video. You have to look a little bit for it. Oh, there she is. That's one of the ladies from the Challenger, I think. Is that Sally Ride? No, maybe not. Maybe that's not related. Oh, here we go. The crew of the Challenger. Yeah. I mean, these people are alive. They really are. Here it is. NASA Challenger crew still alive and well. And yeah, I believe it. Okay, they're still alive. They didn't go on that thing. So does that mean they didn't go on any of the ships? On any of the spaceships? I mean, that's wow. Can you imagine how crazy this world would have to be for that to be true? But then at the same time, I see the president not being able to get off a helicopter until 1217. The president of the world's most powerful country, so to speak, or as they say, you know. So who knows what's right anymore? It's so hard to tell. It really is. I see a world, and the reason I brought up Adventure China here is not that I have anything against ADV China. This is great. Subscribe to this. These guys are great. They go all over China on motorcycles, and now they're going to other parts of the world too, and they tell you stuff you wouldn't hear any other way. So I've learned a whole lot about China from these guys. But one thing you see is that when you see people in China, they're clones. You know, they're matrix. You can't find an individual over there hardly. You know, it's just more obvious with them than it is with the people here. I think because people at least generally look a little different here as far as like how they dress and behave. You know, there's a lot of melting pot, a lot of different things like that, individual cultures and things in America and in the West. But there, not only do they act alike, but they all look alike too. You know, they all dress pretty much the same. They're all about the same body weight. You know, it's like nobody ever has an individualist idea at all because it's all about the group. You know, very, very matrix. You do not want to. In Japan, they brag, not China, but in Japan, they actually brag as if it's a good thing that the nail that sticks out, it'll be pounded down, like you're never supposed to stick out. You're supposed to be part of the group. I mean, you talk about lemming mentality. You talk about being a part of the matrix and being fully controlled by a system. I mean, what a terrible way to live. But maybe they can't help it. Maybe they're part of a matrix construct. Still don't really think that they couldn't. I just I don't understand why they don't. I don't understand why they don't ask questions. I can understand how a headhunter would be born a headhunter, be raised a headhunter, and for a while maybe would originally adopt the culture of the headhunter society, but at some point when he's chopping somebody's head off, you'd think he would ask the question, is this right? Would I want to have my head chopped off? You know? Should I listen to Chairman Mao, or maybe my life's just not worth living as an individual and having my own thoughts because I'll spend the rest of my life in a prison or something, and I understand that's a price you'd have to pay if you did become an individual in China, if you did dare to actually learn the truth about what your government does, it could cost you. And so I could see how it would be hard to do that. But imagine here in America, you can ask questions, and you'll get strikes on your YouTube channel like I did on May the 5th month on the 13th day, okay, or as the rest of the world would say it, 135, while I was talking about the number 135 and its relationship to August 11. They gave me a strike on that day that ends on August 11. That's not a coincidence. I see that the Matrix noticed what I did right there. It's pretty dang obvious, right? So all this stuff to say, if you're having a hard time knowing whether something is objectively true, you're not alone. But I'd love to hear from you because, and by the way, if you're just like an avid sports fan and you just spend your life for sports and you think they're real and you don't question it, don't comment, okay? Don't waste your time. You're part of the Matrix, okay? If you think that, the Republicans are right or the Democrats are right, you're still part of the Matrix. And I was for a long time. I get it. I didn't But if you are starting to ask questions and you're waking up, or if you're going to ask any kinds of question, I'll listen, I'll answer. I won't boot anybody off my channel. Even people say stupid things, I still let them talk. You know, people out themselves for what kind of person they really are. So, you know, unless you're just like really, really just crazy, being mean to somebody else or something, then I'd boot you off. But just people that are mean to me or whatever, I don't care. In all these years, I've only had to boot one person off of any of my things, and that's just because she was going out trying to get my stuff deleted. I can't deal with that. If you start calling in and reporting me that I'm saying something uh, wrong, and I'm certainly not. I'm just talking about my regular viewpoints and that sort of thing. Well, you start making up crap and trying to get me reported, then we'll have a problem. But if you just want to talk to me and tell me that I suck or whatever, I don't care. But why waste your time? You're just outing yourself as a matrix bot. You're a sentient program of the machine. Personally, I don't buy the view that you're a soulless one. I think you do have a soul. I really do. I think it's going to go somewhere. And I think you need to start asking questions. Start getting serious about life. Start paying attention. Don't be a product of the culture around you. Be driven entirely from within. And I have to wonder when people have tattoos all over their body, they're just matrix bots. I don't think they've ever had an original thought. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong. That's not my point. That's what you don't understand. You're turning it into a conversation of right or wrong. It's not about right or wrong. It's why do you feel that you have to injure your own body, cause yourself pain, so that other people will see what you've done and have thoughts about what you've done? Good or bad or indifferent, whatever the thoughts you think they're supposed to have. And obviously you want people to see it. That's why you put it on your body. Okay. It's not just you're the only one that's ever going to see it. I mean, you put it there because you hope somebody will notice. Common sense, right? I mean, artists don't draw a picture or paint a picture because they don't want anybody to see it. And you're not putting something on your skin unless you want somebody to see it. So you want somebody to think something about you. Good, bad, indifferent, whatever those thoughts are, I don't care. It's the very fact that you are so deep in the system that it has told you can injure your own body and cause yourself pain for the thoughts of somebody else. And I don't mean like altruistic pain where you're, saving somebody's life and it might cost you something, or, it might cost you a little bit of pain to live to support your family or something like. No, it's senseless pain. Some of you that pierce your nipples or your belly button, obviously you want somebody to see it at some point. You pierce your face. I mean, gosh, you are so deep in the matrix. It has so much control and power over you that you're willing to cause yourself pain for whatever thoughts you think that somebody else are supposed to think about you. And that blows my mind. Like, how could anybody do that? I give up thinking about what anybody cares anymore. I can't say I've never done it, ever. Maybe happened a few times briefly here and there, but by and large, it's just, I'll cut my grass when I want to cut my grass, I'll paint something on my house when I feel like I want to paint it, not because it looks a certain way. It's not about anybody else. I don't care. Until I was 35 years old or so, and that was only about 5 years ago, I didn't care what I wore. I literally just tried to find the cheapest thing. The only reason I care a little bit now is, I do care a little bit about what my wife thinks, but only to a certain degree, There are certain advantages to making your wife happy, So I work towards that a little bit. There's also certain advantages I learned in society that if you do control the minds of people a little bit by presenting a certain amount of respectability, that you gain a little more influence. But that's only because I want to control you, not because I care what you think about me, you know. And it's easy to control other people. It's easy to see the patterns in other people's lives as well. Last year I was sitting at a Shoney's restaurant, and a young waitress girl, probably she couldn't have been more than 20. Couldn't have been more than 20, maybe even 19 or so. She came up and was talking to me a little bit there, and she actually had a break. Okay, she had a break. And there's another guy there sitting there talking with me too. And we started talking to her for a second. And I don't know, he had to leave for, I don't even remember why, but he had to leave. So I was still talking to her. And I told this girl like her entire life story. And it amazed her. And I told her, she didn't tell me, I told her her life story. Like I told her exactly what situation she found her life in and why she couldn't change her relationships and why they say, and it just blew her away. She said, it's like you've known me my entire life. She says, how did you do that? And it's just seeing in the matrix. It's being able to understand a pattern and understand that the vast majority of people, she was just a carbon copy of millions of other people. So many people just like her. And virtually all of you are like that. Now, I'm not trying to toot my own horn. I'm not trying to say that I'm better than you. I'm not better than you. I'm definitely not better. In fact, I'm not even as smart as the majority of you. I know that to be a fact. And I think if you had this connection with yourself instead of being a part of the matrix, you could really make waves out there. You could really control things. You could really make good things happen in this world. But the fact that so few things do happen in this world is because you're controlled. It's because people that are smarter than me, that are better than me, don't have that connection. You know, I was a C student. More like maybe a C plus, B minus student my entire life, okay? I never did better than that. I failed Algebra 1 the first time, and the teacher gave me some extra credit so that I could get a D minus and barely pass it the second time, you know. I'm not a math whiz. I'm not a scholar, you know. I don't have very many talents of any real kind. I can play the guitar a little bit, but just a little, you know. But some of you people are really smart. And you're hearing this, but nothing ever resonates with, why don't I just not care about what anybody says and I just do what I think I should do? And I don't mean don't care what God says or anything like that. No, you know, he's a lot bigger than you. He has the right to tell you what to do, okay? But other people don't. I don't mean disobey the government to the extent that you get in jail or anything like that. You know, that's not what I'm saying. Don't misinterpret me, okay? Don't get yourself put in jail unless it's for, you know, a real good reason. Okay. But what a weird world we live in. How is it possible that the matrix runs everything? If you're having trouble understanding the objective reality of the universe, well, you're not having trouble unless you're actually asking questions, okay? So the very fact that you're asking questions is a good sign. The very fact that you even stayed in here and said, yeah, some of this resonates with me. I'm going to start looking more into this. I'm going to start studying gematria. I'm going to start learning how everything can be fake. And I'm going to try to get answers. And by the way, when you do get some answers, share them, because we're always learning more things. I by far don't know it all. I don't even know the tip of the iceberg. Some of you, though, I might have just lit a little spark You know, little tiny spark might be lit right now, and when that wick burns down and that fire explodes, you're gonna discover amazing things, far more than I've ever discovered or learned, and you're gonna come back and teach me things. I know a little bit of guitar, and I over the years I've taught a few people a few chords, and I come back later, and I'm still pretty much where I've always been. I only know a little bit, and they come back and they're master. They're great at the guitar. They never return the favor and teach me anything, though. Go figure. So you go out there and you learn something, and then come back and teach me. I want to hear it. Okay. Um, don't stay in this matrix. Don't live your life needing anything from anybody. As far emotionally, just have the connection between you and God. That's all you need. Okay. If God and you are on the same page, that's a majority. Like I think it's 1 John in the Bible. Let God be true and all men liars. You don't need anything else. That's it. It's you and God. So thanks for watching, and hope you'll like, share, and subscribe.